Marvel spent millions creating these characters, marketing them as the future of comics. Some had top writers, exclusive launch events, and even planned movie deals behind the scenes. They weren't side projects. They were built to lead the next era of Marvel storytelling, but despite the money and hype, they failed to connect with fans. So, who are these Marvel characters that cost the most to create, but still flopped? Here are 10 of the most expensive Marvel comic characters that failed anyway. At number 10, US-1. In early 80s, Marvel tried to tap into America's trucking craze with US-1, a comic about a big rig driver turned superhero. The character, Ulysses Solomon Archer, had a metal skull and fought highway villains, all while driving a futuristic truck. Marvel partnered with Tyco Toys, hoping the comic would help sell a new trucking slot car toy line. They brought in top talent like Herb Trimpe and Steve Ditko and promoted it as a fast-paced, kid-friendly adventure. But the idea didn't stick. The toy line failed to take off, and the comic only lasted 12 issues before being canceled. Fans didn't take the trucker superhero seriously, and the stories were seen as shallow, a gimmick more than a character. Marvel viewed US-1 as a failure because it was built for merchandising, not storytelling. Despite the marketing, no strong fanbase followed. Today, US-1 is remembered as a strange experiment that sped off the road almost as soon as it began. At number 9, Mosaic. In 2016, Marvel introduced Mosaic, a new Inhuman hero with the power to take over other people's bodies. They promoted him heavily. Mystery teasers, puzzle-themed ads, and a free origin story given away at Barnes & Noble stores. Mosaic was launched as Marvel's next big thing, a former NBA star transformed by Terrigen Mist, bringing fresh diversity and a new power set to their lineup. But readers didn't connect. His solo comic launched strongly, but quickly dropped in sales. Behind the scenes, some believed Marvel overprinted early issues to boost sales, though this was never confirmed. By issue 3, real orders fell to under 20,000 copies, far below Marvel's expectations. Marvel considered Mosaic a failure because the audience didn't care enough to follow his story. Even with a unique power and strong marketing, he never built a fan base. After just 8 issues, Mosaic's series was canceled. He disappeared from major storylines, remembered only as one of Marvel's many short-lived Inhuman experiments. At number 8, Onslaught. In 1996, Marvel introduced Onslaught, a villain born from the combined dark minds of Professor X and Magneto. They spent millions building him up, running teases for over a year, spanning dozens of comics, and creating a massive crossover that involved both the X-Men and the Avengers. His armored design filled toy shelves, and Marvel promoted him as their next legendary villain. But the story didn't deliver. After the reveal, Onslaught's character became a generic world destroyer with confusing powers. The final battle forced non-mutant heroes to sacrifice themselves by jumping into his energy form, leaving fans frustrated and confused. From Marvel's viewpoint, Onslaught failed because despite the massive investment, readers didn't connect with him. Instead of becoming Marvel's next great villain, he was remembered for a bloated storyline and an ending that didn't stick. Though Onslaught briefly returned in later stories, he never became the franchise-defining villain Marvel had hoped for. His legacy remains a symbol of overhyped 90s excess. But the next 3 weren't just expensive comics, they were Marvel's riskiest franchise bets: trucker superheroes, clone replacements, NFL crossovers. At number 7, Ben Reilly and the Clone Saga. In 1994, Marvel launched the Clone Saga, one of the most expensive Spider-Man storylines ever. Ben Reilly, Peter Parker's clone, returned as Scarlet Spider and was soon made the real Spider-Man. Marvel backed this with full marketing: new issues, action figures, trading cards, and Wizard magazine covers. Every Spider-Man comic was tied into the saga, and Marvel planned for Ben to replace Peter long-term. But what was supposed to end in months dragged on for nearly 2 years. The story became a mess of clones, fake twists, and endless retcons. Fans lost patience, and sales began to fall. From Marvel's view, it failed because they spent millions creating a bold new Spider-Man, but readers rejected him. Peter Parker's struggle was what people cared about, not his replacement. By 1996, Marvel reversed everything. Ben was killed off, Peter was restored, and the Clone Saga became a cautionary tale of overhyped storytelling that lost sight of its fans. At number 6, NFL Super Pro. In 1991, Marvel partnered with the NFL to create NFL Super Pro, a superhero dressed head to toe in football gear. The goal was to pull young sports fans into comics, promote school values, and expand Marvel's reach. They spent heavily on a Super Bowl edition comic, brought in Spider-Man for issue 1, and even ran an official Super Bowl special comic tied to the event. But readers didn't buy it. The comics were filled with cheesy football puns and flat storytelling. Critics and fans called it one of Marvel's worst creations. Sales stayed low, and the situation worsened after one issue offended Native American readers, forcing Marvel to recall 70,000 copies and issue a public apology. Marvel viewed Super Pro as a failure because the character felt like a forced advertisement rather than a genuine hero. Internally, even writers called it a mistake. After just 12 issues, the series was canceled. And Super Pro became a long-running joke in Marvel history, remembered more for what he sold than who he saved. At number 5, Dazzler. In 1980, Marvel launched Dazzler as their first major multimedia hero. She was designed alongside Casablanca Records to be a pop star, a movie icon, and a Marvel superhero, all in one. Marvel spent heavily on promotion. They launched her first comic with 400,000 copies, put Spider-Man, the X-Men, and the Hulk in her stories, and even discussed a film starring Bo Derek. But timing destroyed it. By the time her first issue hit shelves, the disco era was already dead. Casablanca pulled out, the movie deal collapsed, and Dazzler was left as just another comic book hero. Marvel considered the project a failure because, despite the huge investment, Dazzler couldn't carry a franchise. Sales crashed, and by 1985, her solo series was canceled due to low demand. Even so, Dazzler found a second life later as part of the X-Men. She never became a superstar, but still holds a cult following as Marvel's boldest early attempt at creating a cross-media icon. At number 4, Star Brand and the New Universe. In 1986, for Marvel's 25th anniversary, editor-in-chief Jim Shooter launched the New Universe, a brand new line meant to rival the main Marvel world. Star Brand was the lead character, promoted as Marvel's version of Green Lantern, a grounded, powerful hero in a realistic world. Marvel spent likely in the low millions launching and promoting 8 new comic series, running house ads across all their titles, and putting their top talent on the project. This was supposed to be Marvel's second universe, a bold step into the future. But fans didn't connect. The books lacked the excitement of the Marvel universe. Sales dropped fast, Marvel cut budgets, and the titles lost quality. By 1989, the entire new universe was canceled. Inside Marvel, this was seen as a major failure. They spent big on a project that never took off. Star Brand was supposed to lead a new era, but ended up being remembered as one of Marvel's most expensive comic book misfires. And now the final 3, Marvel's most expensive failures: TV shows, movies, and a $200 million disaster that still divides fans. At number 3, Howard the Duck. In the 1970s, Howard the Duck was a cult hit in comics. But in 1986, Marvel and George Lucas turned him into a live-action film. With a $37 million budget, it was one of the most expensive comic book movies of its time. They promoted it heavily. Posters, talk show spots, and merchandise pushed the film as a major event. But the film bombed. It made only $16 million, and critics destroyed it. Fans who loved the comic's sharp satire hated the goofy, awkward movie version. The duck costume was called creepy, and the humor didn't land with anyone. For Marvel, it was a major setback. The failure was so bad that Marvel stopped working on films for over a decade. In their view, Howard failed because the movie ruined what made the character work in comics, turning smart satire into a messy kids' comedy. Howard's comics faded for years, and his name became linked with one of Marvel's biggest box office failures. At number 2, The Inhumans. Marvel wanted the Inhumans to replace the X-Men, so they spent close to $100 million trying to make them the next big thing. It started with comics. They launched more than 6 Inhuman series, tied them into events like Inhumanity and Inhumans vs. X-Men, and pushed new characters like Mosaic. They gave the Inhumans major storylines and even cut back on X-Men titles to clear the way. But the comics failed. Sales dropped, and readers rejected the push. Fans felt Marvel was forcing them to care about characters they never asked for. Then came the TV show. Marvel spent around $40 million, released the first episodes in IMAX theaters, and marketed it as the next big Marvel event. But it flopped, and it was canceled after just 1 season. In the end, after spending millions on comics, TV, and marketing, Marvel dropped the Inhumans. the X-Men returned to the spotlight, and the Inhumans faded into the background. At number 1, the Eternals. Marvel spent decades trying to make the Eternals popular. In the 1970s, Jack Kirby's original series was canceled after just 19 issues because of low sales. Later, Marvel tried again with big creators like Neil Gaiman, but the comics still couldn't hold an audience. Then came the biggest push, the 2021 Eternals film. With a $200 million budget and a cast including Angelina Jolie and Salma Hayek, Marvel promoted it as the start of a new cosmic saga. They relaunched the comics alongside the movie, pushed Eternals into video games and merchandise, and spent millions marketing them as the next big team. But it didn't connect. The film earned the first rotten score in MCU history, and box office numbers barely covered the cost. Fans found the story too slow and the characters too distant. In Marvel's eyes, it failed because the audience never cared enough to build a franchise around them. The Eternals became a side story, not a pillar of the Marvel universe. Which Marvel flop surprised you the most? Let us know below, and don't forget to subscribe and like. Also press the bell icon for more untold comic book stories.